I want you to remember something, because a lot of times people get nice things and they start to think differently. We got here from hard work, patience, and humility. So I want to tell you, don't ever think that the world owes you anything, because it doesn't. The world doesn't owe you a thing.
Hello, welcome to What the Flick. I am Christy, this is Alonzo, that is Matt, that is Ben. We are deep, deep in the thick of award season. It is Christmas week, the movies that matter. And the one we're about to talk about, at least on its surface, would seem to count as one of them. It's called Joy. What is Joy about, Alonzo?
Well, it's the latest from David O. Russell, and it is his third team-up with Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper following Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle. This is a true story about an entrepreneur, although her last name is never mentioned in the film, but Joy invented the miracle mop and a lot of other household doodads and was a pioneer of using home shopping to get her products to the populace. So, you know, it's a cool idea and kind of an interesting one. But as for the results, maybe less so. Take a look.
As you grow up and come into the world that has all sorts of things in it, money, crime, betrayal, seems like you're shaking us down.
You can pay more.
I can't, and I won't. When you realize that the only thing you're gonna have is what you make.
You are in a room, and there is a gun on the table.
I want my life to be.
The only other person in the room is an adversary in commerce. Only one of you can prevail. Do you pick up the gun, Joy?
I pick up the gun. Listen to me. Never speak on my behalf about my business again.
I learned so much about mops from this movie. So much I didn't know before. Mops, how they matter.
I've used that mop.
And is it miraculous?
It's super handy.
Is
you don't have
it?
to touch it. It's the ringer in the plastic thing.
I like the velvet-covered little thin hanger she came up with, too.
Yeah.
Those are nice.
Yeah.
The movie itself is not.
The movie is such a mess. Okay, here's the thing. I know that Russell is divisive, and there are people who thought Silver Linings Playbook was bullshit, and they hated American Hustle. I'm a big fan of both of those movies.
Me too.
This one did not work for me. It seems to start out to be this movie about how Jennifer Lawrence is this woman who was creative and had cool ideas, but she's been beaten down by life, and she got married too young, and she had kids, and her family depends on her, and all this stuff is happening. And then she sort of rekindles her creative spirit and invents this mop, you know, and they're like, okay, that's a cool movie. And then suddenly it's a movie about the creation of QVC, which is another cool movie, but it's not the movie we were watching. And then it becomes a movie about something else, and then eventually it becomes this thing where the character hits rock bottom and then cuts her hair, and 2 scenes later, she's back on top of the world.
It's a fantastic haircut. It's like the perfect lob I've wanted my entire life. A little bit long in the front, she just without even looking at anything. Yeah, it doesn't really pick up until she goes to QVC.
Yeah.
Like, that movie I like. And the chemistry with her and Bradley Cooper is, of course, fantastic.
Right.
But overall, even though it's a big, showy arc for her, it's a more grown-up performance for her, she always felt too young for me in this. And I don't feel like Jennifer Lawrence, as vibrant and radiant as Jennifer Lawrence is, I didn't feel her beaten down by life, as you described.
Yeah,
it.
and mother
Ever.
of 2
Ever.
and all that stuff.
It was a weird, bad casting choice, strangely.
That's not the only bad casting. I think De Niro is horribly miscast in here. I think that he puts in a fine performance, but I think his persona, he's the wrong guy for this role. As this guy who, you know, I could see like a Seymour Cassel in that kind of role, but you know, it's hard to take De Niro seriously as someone you're not really supposed to take seriously, if that makes sense. This movie is a mess, and it's all over the place. The early scenes where we get invited to QVC are really sharp and really interesting. From the moment they get there and they're at the waiting room, and
it's not that early. It takes a while.
Right.
It's like an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm talking the first scenes at QVC, and then as Bradley Cooper talks about what works and his history with it, and as they're watching the broadcast happen, and then Joy's first step on all that's great. And there's some scenes where some of the later scenes, once she's kind of putting her business together outside of the family. What doesn't work in this movie is the stuff with her crazy family. Because it starts out being this movie about, there's like parallels to soap opera drama, and you keep cutting to these soaps, and her mom's
It opens with
right,
a soap opera.
and her mom's who's obsessed with the TV, who won't leave the TV room.
Virginia
Madsen. And as Joy, as we're supposed to believe Joy evolves as a person, her family members all kind of stay the same level of crazy and shitty. But it never ratchets up the tension between who she's becoming and how they're still dragging her back. I would have dealt with them still being fuck-ups, but that relationship just stays the same, like, oh, we're just still beating her down and she's letting it happen.
Like the sister, who's played by Elizabeth Rome,
Right.
in every single scene does and says the exact same thing. Like every time she walks on screen, you know
De Niro
exactly what
does,
she's about to
and,
do.
Isabella Rossellini does, and Virginia Madsen does, and the grandmother does. Like, they're all the same notes, even though Joy, and you see Jennifer Lawrence change her performance. Like, she does evolve in what she's doing.
Yeah, but
Sorry, go ahead.
And I understand that family stays the same. I understand that.
I thought that was the point, that they stay the same and she's got to emerge from that. I didn't have any problem with that. I mean, Elizabeth Rome was particularly repetitive, but that sort of, I liked that the nature of that sibling. I loved her family. I loved the scenes with her family. I loved her goodness and her love for all of these enormously flawed people, save her children, and save a super interesting relationship, I thought, with her ex-husband, which the movie makes very clear. They intend you to think that it's an amazing relationship. They're stressed out when we see how they were married, but they're a great divorced couple.
Although he turns on a dime from being moocher to like her most fervent champion. I kind of felt like.
I suspect that he's still, I suppose, but the most moochery times for them, he hates Robert De Niro, and you could see why a guy like that would hate Robert De Niro if he loved Joy, because Robert De Niro's a terrible dad with flashes of good dadness, but by and large drags her down, as does when he takes up with Isabella Rossellini, as does her sister, as does her mother, not her grandmother. And then she has a great best friend from the woman from Orange is the New Black.
Who doesn't get to do a whole lot.
Doesn't get to do a whole lot. But I thought I agree with you guys on the QVC scenes. I thought they were great. There's a speech that Bradley Cooper gives where I'm like, damn, that guy's such a movie star.
Right.
Like,
He's so Bradley Cooper
I was like,
today.
whoa, man, that guy's a star. And then he actually, I think, doesn't quite have enough to do.
They build his character as though like he's about to become major for the rest of the movie, and then
he's gone.
he goes away until the very end.
Yeah, I mean, Melissa Rivers as Joan Rivers is pretty great.
That's kind of funny.
I like that. I loved all the QVC stuff. I thought I was headed to love this movie, but then the resolution is silly.
It's so quick.
It's so quick, and in its rapidity is unbelievable. It is literally, I don't believe. Oh, one powerful speech to a significant swindler makes him go, okay, you win. Here's everything
Here are
you
my
want.
parts back.
Right.
The equivalent is basically like if Jimmy Stewart went from trying to commit suicide in It's a Wonderful Life to the end of the movie without seeing Pottersville. That's how quick the turnaround here is.
Yeah, that was real. I thought the last 20 minutes was particularly damaging to the movie, but I quite liked it for that. There are some flaws in it, definitely. I mean, I don't even disagree with many of the things you guys are saying, but I thought those characters, all of them, every single one of them. I thought her mom, that's a great character, won't leave the room, watches soap operas, terrible. Her controlling father, going from woman to woman, demanding to be in love, ultimately blaming her when things get tough. And then the sister who did with a different mom but the same dad, and says like, no, what about me? You're always talking about Joy. You're always talking about Joy. What about me? I loved that whole family dynamic. I was sort of oddly jealous of that family.
Really?
Yeah, that sort of madhouse of all these different people together looking out for each other. I liked, and I liked it quite a bit until the end.
But Russell keeps making that movie in some ways. Like, the person who was destined for greatness, but their crazy, selfish, flawed family keeps trying to drag him down. Like, he just keeps exploring it in different
That's okay.
tones,
I don't
slightly
mind that.
here and there.
Yeah, I don't mind
Do you
that.
not?
I don't mind guys making the same movie if it's a good movie.
But this was not a good movie, though.
No, exactly.
This is all over the place tonally.
I think this movie really made me even more appreciate the previous two, because there's, for people who like those films, I think you have to acknowledge that they could have so easily fallen apart at any moment.
Silver Linings Playbook
especially, but also American Hustle. Like, they could have just sunk into this weird morass of like, stylized dialogue and weird quirkiness, exactly. But because the performances are so good and you get so enmeshed in the lives of these people, you kind of go with it, and it's almost this high wire act of, is Russell going to make it to the other side, alive? And he does. And in this one, you see what happens when it doesn't work, and then it all just,
You know what's so funny is that people, not us of course, because we take our job seriously, but there are prognosticators out there who try to figure out what are your Oscar contenders going to be sight unseen, right? And so all of us going into Joy were being told Jennifer Lawrence is going to get nominated again, like she's going to win again. And then we all walked out of Joy like, maybe not so much.
Maybe not.
It was a sense of deflation I felt walking out of that screening we all went to.
She doesn't do anything wrong, but I agree with you that she's not well cast, because American Hustle, like, she was too young for that role, but she gave you so much that you just went with it after a while. And in this one, when she looks like Jennifer Lawrence and she's harried and two kids dragging at her skirts and juggling all this stuff, and yeah, the life supposedly sucked all the vitality out of her, you're like, no, I still see a lot of vitality.
Yeah,
there,
and she's still adorable and lively and like put together, even though she's supposed to be a mess. Yeah, I strangely did not buy her. You think she could do everything? She pretty much can do everything, but I didn't buy her all the time.
I disagree with that, because I think part of what is interesting about Joy Mangano's story is that she was kind of this hidden gem on QVC. Like, she steps into that and she nails it. Like, you watch that first broadcast with her, and she's not bad.
Well,
for someone who's got right, and she is not bad. I mean, she doesn't look beaten down the way you guys are talking about. Like, Joy as a person, as an inventor, like, she came in and she gave it her all, and she was one of those people that had a natural amount of charisma. So I have less of an issue with that. My biggest issue is that you never see Joy as a character in this movie have a harder time dealing with her family as she's moving forward. That's my biggest issue, is that the family stays the same and she just seems to fall back in like it's the same note, that relationship, like, she's still harried, they still suck. It's not like I kind of wanted to see like a sense of desperation, like, look, I've got all this stuff and you guys are fucking me over really bad. I'm like, and so
Could I get some help from you, please?
Right, and she never, not even that she would start screaming at him, but you want to see that boiling under the surface, and the script never allows her to do that.
Okay. So what are our numbers then?
I gave it 7.1. I still liked it. I still think it's fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Matt?
What did I say?
6.5.
6.5.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that far apart.
I gave it a 4.5. I was angry at the end of this because
You hate Joy.
I hate Joy in italics.
We've long suspected.
Because I really love everybody who made this movie, and I would have liked. I expected more from them.
I'm giving it a 6.4.
You just gave Joy my sister's review.
Oh.
Like, that I love everyone in it, and so I expected more from them.
Okay.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
So our average is a 6.1.
What did you give it, Christy?
6.4.
And it is 62% on the tomato meter.
Don't see this one. Bye.